ladies and gentlemen, this lady has been with us from day one. You've seen her, she's been here on time every day. You'd think that she's presenting on that day because she's been here on time every single day. With over 16 years of proven international experience in the telecommunications and digital sectors, dealing with disciplines such as digital publishing, executive management, business operations, sales, marketing, logistics, manufacturing, and business development for both local and multinational companies. Here to talk to us about how to reach the right audience at the right time in programmatic advertising. Let's welcome Aileen Corrigan, the CEO of Trend Media. Please put your hands together for her, please.
Good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, I had a bit of a mishap. I was on a flight to London, and as everyone does, you rush off, and what was left behind was my iPad. So now I have to go try and find a digital replacement, so apologies for my notes. I'd like to say thank you very much to Erica and obviously the whole team at the Global Digital Marketing Conference for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak to you all here in Kingston, but also to 60 countries around the world, and to Raj, who's done a phenomenal job from abroad. My name is Aileen Corrigan. I'm, as Debbie mentioned, oh, thank you, Debbie, as well. I'm the CEO of Trend Media. Trend Media is a Kingston-based company. We are a digital media house. We work with agencies, but also directly with brands to solve their digital challenges and help them to strategize and make sure that they get the presence that they want. The other piece that we also do is we are also a digital publisher. So we run Loop News, which is, for many of those that know, we're fully online. We don't do any printed papers, and we run out of 6 countries around, amongst the Caribbean. So we run in Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, St. Lucia, and Cayman, and Haiti. So we have over 2 million users. And why did we launch a digital news organization? It was absolutely about coming and getting content to the right people at the right time. And that's what I'm going to talk to you today about. Most people, when they hear about programmatic, they go, oh my Lord, that sounds complicated. So I'm here to try and demystify that. So forget about the name, and let's get into what it actually is. And before I get into programmatic itself, it's important to talk about, what are the key things that are happening in our space? And the first thing is mobile. Mobile is absolutely fundamental. If you think of the world today, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet, and over 50% of those people are connected now. They're using LTE, they're using 4G, they're using 5G, they're using Wi-Fi, they are using broadband, they are getting online. So if you're a business, you need to make sure that you are connecting with your customers. And that's not just at the desk on a PC anymore, it's on the phone. Most people, there's 81% of people look at their phone within 15 minutes of waking up. And when you think about it, it's actually scary. Most people actually look at their phone before they give their partner a kiss. So, you can see how things have changed over the period of time. It is becoming the extension of who we are. We're absolutely connected to our mobile, and it's a fundamental part of the strategy in digital. The second piece is big data. Big data is absolutely the new oil. And a lot of people think oil, that's quite a reach. But if you don't have data, how do you make proper decisions? And information is really about the wealth. And in digital, knowing your audience and how to get to them at the right time is absolutely key. If you don't know who you're talking to, then you're not going to have a successful digital campaign. I've been in the marketing space for a long time, and it's one of those things that, we all hate to admit it. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, things were a lot easier. We used to be able to, put something in the press, put something in the radio. They told me I had to do a campaign, tick, tick, tick. Hey, it's done. It's up to commercial or sales or distribution to sort that out and bring in the sales. It's about marketing and technology really getting together, and it's about digital starting to show ROI. Because now every dollar is really looked at. We don't have the luxury of having big budgets. So we need to make sure it goes as far and possible as we can. And so then it brings down to engagement. Over the last 3 days, what every single speaker that has spoken, it's about getting closer to the audience, making sure you're authentic, and making sure you're engaging with everyone at the right time. Now, I'm different from Debbie and Erica and everyone else in the room. So how do you make sure that you're being actually connected to every single person? That's because the other big trend that's happening is micro moments. Micro moments are, how do I connect one-on-one with you at that very specific time and different from the other 7.5 billion people in the world? And that's where we need to, as marketeers, get down to that granular level. We can't just do that in marketing alone. We now need to merge it with technology. And that's where the clash, the marketing and technology used to be other sides of the business. You know, oh yeah, I don't know anything about that. Go talk to technology, IT, they'll sort it out. Now it's about really understanding our platforms and making sure that we use the right platforms. Now, platforms doesn't mean that you have to spend money. You'll have seen over the last few days, there's been a lot of presenters talking about a lot of free platforms. So that's the other piece that's happening is no matter how big your company is, it doesn't matter if it's a large, big multinational, now in the digital space is the little fish in the pond can play in that space with the big boys. Whereas before, well, I can't do a TV ad, I don't have big budgets, I don't know what to do. Now you can actually go after your target audience, the right person, if you know who you're speaking to, and play in the same space as the big brands. And that's what digital enables you to do. So that kind of gives you a bit of an opening and sort of what's happening in the overall world. I'm going to bring in a few other bits and pieces. So the big four, I think if you look at this automatically without even saying it, we already know from their logos who we're talking about, right? So we've obviously got Facebook, Google, we've got Amazon and Apple. And these, if you think about it, Facebook actually owns 77% of the social traffic. Google has 88% of all the searches and advertising. Amazon, from an e-commerce point of view, when you look at it, the granular details that they know about every single person, every click that they're doing, they know what's happening. And if you ever notice, when you go on, and unfortunately I'm a little bit of a e-commerce buff, I go on and I buy a pair of shoes, and then I go and look at something else, and then I go and look at something else. And you know what it starts doing is obviously starts going, hey, what about this? Did you like this? And of course, the little shiny thing goes, actually, yeah. And guess what? Then they start going 50% off today. And of course, then what do? We start clicking, right? They are absolutely fundamentally amazing at why? Because it's the data that they use. Amazon's not about just selling you something, the data that they have. And Amazon is actually one of the biggest data storages companies in the world. You think of them as a sales place, you know, online shop, but they're actually about data. And Amazon and Apple, 2/3 of their sales is actually phone sales. If you look as a company, where did they start? They start as, you know, the old Mac. You think of desktop, you think of that, but they've completely changed. And why? Because they saw the trend of everything going mobile. And that's where 2/3 of their sales are at the moment. Facebook. One of the key things about Facebook and what they're doing, and obviously we've heard about Facebook and a lot of their data stories over the last little while, but again, it comes back to understanding the audience. Facebook now, after 300 clicks, they can actually fill out a survey on your behalf and get over 90% accuracy. So just based on your predictive behavior and what you've been doing over the last little while, they know what you're going to respond in a survey with only 300 clicks. Obama. He was the first president that really understood the predictive nature. And why was he called the data president? It's because he used data to help with his presidency. Not to sway people, but understand who were the people that were likely to vote for him, who were the people that weren't likely to vote for them, and why. And start understanding that oil, understanding that data, understanding at that micro moment when he was going to a particular state, what was happening and with the predictability, and then he can talk about it because he had the information. And it's about that information that drove that success. Now, when you also think about Gen Z are people that were born after 1996. They have less than 8 seconds attention. For anybody who has kids at the moment, you know that's so true, right? You talk to them and they're like, are you paying attention? Hello, hello, hello. 8 seconds. So if you're not getting to them, if you're not getting that message in 8 seconds or less, you've lost your moment. That is phenomenal. Like, think, how much can you get through in 8 seconds? Like, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, you can't get through in 8 seconds. But that's what, as marketeers, we need to do, is making sure we get into those micro moments, making sure we get the right message, the right time, at exactly the right place. And it's making sure that we're dealing with the impatience. And more as you go on and people are using technology, they don't have the patience. So if you go to click on a site, if it's not loading fast enough, they've moved on. They've gone to search for something else. You know what, too much hassle, I'm going to move on. And that's the key, making sure that our technology and our marketing is working hand in hand. So now we get to programmatic. So what does this mean? I've talked about the micro moments. I've talked about the data. Programmatic is basically buying the right audience at the right time in a bid auction. So most people know Google Ads, right? So most people understand the basics. So I go and I'm looking for an 18 to 24-year-old who's, let's say, looking to buy a particular, let's say, a car. So I go on and I buy Google Ads. I buy that profile. Now, with programmatic, it brings it that step further. Why? Because as people are searching, every search that they're doing, it's giving more and more information. So they could be, let's say, searching for a car, then they start looking for a brand, then they start looking for a deal. And so you want to make sure that at that very, very moment that they're looking for a brand, you want to make sure your brand is in front. At that very moment that they're looking for the best deal, that you give them a price. So programmatic is an automated purchasing online auction to buy particular inventory on a website at, we're talking milliseconds. And I'm going to bring you through what does that mean. Just a little bit on the geeky side. I promise I won't go into too much. The first is a customer goes onto a website. So they're interested in something. Then what happens is the information, so as soon as they log onto the website, the information goes to an ad exchange. The information then looks around and says, okay, this person's searching for cars. So it goes in and starts looking for inventory. The ad exchange then bids for advertisers. So it says, hey, advertisers, I have, at the moment, a bunch of people in the market for looking for cars. And then, of course, Ford and Volvo and Hyundai and everything else will go, oh, I want to get my ad in front of that person now, that very moment, because they're searching for it. So then at that point, the ad slot is evaluated and they start bidding. So Hyundai and Volvo and whoever else in milliseconds start bidding. And then depending on the audience, so Volvo will say, well, let's say I want to get over 40. I want people who, let's say, have a particular income because they know what their profile is. Let's say another brand will want to go for, let's say, entry level. People who are, let's say, just starting out. They're just graduated from university. They're not going to be at the same price point, right? So depending on that search at that very moment in time, one brand will want to pay more for that than another. Volvo isn't going to want to pay money for that entry level person. So they'll start bidding, and then the highest bidder will win. Now, this whole process literally takes milliseconds. And that's programmatic buying, because at that very moment, you are buying the right audience at the right time and putting your message in front of them. And why is that important? Because when you look at the marketing funnel, at different phases, people are looking for different things. At the beginning, at the top, they're creating awareness, and then they start considering, and then they start going into purchase, and then obviously then you've got a full purchase. So you want to be able to get them at that different point in that cycle. And so that way you want to make sure you match your message at where they are in that customer journey. Where does this all come from? It comes from your digital footprint. So every place that you go on the internet, you are leaving a little bit of you. You're leaving your digital footprint. You're saying, I've been on this website, I've looked up this, I searched for this, I tagged this, I went on Facebook, I went to Instagram, etc. And even if you try to clear all your caches, it takes 4 hours for them to realize who you were. That's all it is. And people always say that. They always say, oh, you know what, I'll just clear it. It's like I'm brand new. No. They know because of your search behavior, you're creating a profile, you're creating a persona. They already know who you are. And so Minister Bartlett talked about this on the opening day of basically, I decided to look at a particular journey. Let's talk about the tourism industry, because it's obviously a big one in Jamaica and it affects a lot of businesses. Is, you know, what are the 5 journeys or 5 parts of a journey that people go through? And what we're going to do is kind of bring this to life for you so that you can understand why would I use programmatic advertising. So in the usual stages, first, people start thinking, they dream about a holiday, they start planning a holiday, they then book it, experience it, and sharing it. So as a brand, how do I make sure that I'm at that? How do I make sure that I'm having a conversation, I'm at the table, that I'm being considered, and ultimately, how do I make sure that person is going to buy my product? So the first is dreaming phase. I'm originally from Canada. In January, it's a cold place to be. And I can tell you, when I wake up and it's like -40 and you've got this amount of snow, you start dreaming pretty quick. You start thinking of lovely beaches, you start thinking of, you know, going and not having to dig yourself out of the snow. And you start thinking about, where could I go on holiday? You know, I've got some holidays coming up. Maybe I'll take a week off. I'd like to go to the Caribbean. Great. Okay. So what do I start doing at that point? I start going onto sites. I start, you know, seeing what's out there. But I'm not converted at this point. I'm just thinking. I'm dreaming. I've got a lot of bills to pay. You know, I've got different things. I don't know if I can afford it. So I start becoming aware. So what happens is, as I start going through the websites and I start looking at travel places, I look at what I can do in different areas. What are the top 10 places to go? So at this point in time, I have 2 kids, and I wish I could lie on a beach, but unfortunately, they're not so into that. So it's about activities. What can I keep them busy? What can I do with the time? And so I start browsing, and this is where we start making people aware. So this is an example where I type in the top 10 places to bring kids. Now, I don't really know where I want to go, don't really have any preference, but you'll notice that to the right, actually, there's advertising that starts popping up. So this is, and there's a few different things. So one is you can start targeting clients with blogs. You know, if you start creating content, what are the fun things to do? So you can say, hey, here's the top 10 things in Jamaica to do. You can go to Dun River Falls, you can go to Dolphin Cove, you can go to the Blue Hole, you can do, you know, there's multiple things, right? And so you're not overtly selling. You're starting to put your brand there, without being in the face, because people are aware. They don't like the flashy in your face at this point, because they're not quite convinced. But you start opening up. So you start making sure that your brand is starting to be visible to that search at that right time. And then you start introducing. So people are in that top 10, I'm scrolling through, and then guess what? Halfway through, a video comes up, and it's like, you know, me and the kid, or somebody in with the dolphins, and we're doing some kind of fun, and I'm like, you know what? My kids have never met dolphins. I want to go there. And I see the video, and I'm thinking, this is really cool. And I continue on through that's also programmatic advertising. That video that popped up just happens to be when I'm in a particular search. Ever notice that? That's like, how did that happen? It's based on your prediction about what you're doing. Then what happens is people start then going, you know what? I deserve that holiday. You know, I'm now stressed. The kids are off school. You know what? I've earned it. So I'm going to start planning for it. And so they start making on, you know, I'm starting to think about things. I'm starting to search now. Where am I going to be interested in? And so if you look at this map, this is an idea of, at any particular time in Canada, there was 2 million searches in the last month for Caribbean resort, just in general, searches. Then 400,000 cruise propensity, and 95,000 people that were searching at this point in time when we pulled this information for a Jamaica holiday. So I know that at this particular moment, 95,000 people are already considering my brand. Not particularly mine, but in that realm. And same thing in the States. We have 600,000 and 15,000 in the resorts, and another 270,000 intended. They've got a predictability that they're leaning towards Jamaica. This is awesome, because already I'm starting to funnel down. Who am I targeting? I know that these people have a propensity to go for my brand, so I want to use my dollar to get to them. I'm not going to go to the people that are looking at Costa Rica or Australia. That's a wasted dollar. I want to make sure that I'm getting in front of the people that I want to. So it's based on the profiling, what's happening. So there I am. The data is starting to understand that this is an early adopter. She's 18 to 24. She likes doing gym. She works in digital advertising. She's female. She's a music enthusiast. We start understanding, okay, she's got that propensity, and this is what she really likes. So if she has a gym membership and she's really into activities and music and etc., most likely she's not going to be interested in lying on the beach either, right? She's going to probably be interested in coming to Jamaica to listen to the music, Sumfest, thinking about, I want to be able to go and hike up the Blue Mountains. This is this profile. So we start putting those brands that are applicable to her in front of her. So if I'm, let's say, a hotel in Strawberry Hill, I want to have an advert that targets her saying, hey, come up the hills and go hiking for the day. I'm not going to say come and go to the spa, because she'll probably get bored with that. So it's about getting that right message at the right time in front of her. Then we get to the booking phase, and it's about closing the deal. Now, yes, I've decided I want to go to Jamaica. Now I'm not so interested in, you know, like, yeah, I've already bought into the dolphins. I've already decided I want to go hiking. Now I want to know the deal. I want to know 40% off. I want to know that I can get 2 for 1. Whatever the deal is, I want to understand that. So that's, at that point in time, is when your advertising then starts narrowing down. I've sold all the pretty pictures. I've talked all the soft things. Now we start talking about the money. And this is where you start then targeting. So a customer might come then onto your website, if you're a hotel, and then they go off my website, because we know that basically people will visit about 20 websites before they actually make that purchase. They will then go on to another, and they'll look at that hotel price. They might go on Expedia. They might go on a few other places to make sure they get the right deal. Point being is that you want to continuously retarget them to drive them back to completing that booking on your site. So let's say that someone comes onto your site and then you notice that they go off your site and they go onto a competitor site. You want to know at that moment is to give them that extra deal. You don't give them before that. You give that to help close the deal. Oh, you know what? Oh my God, if I click on here, it brings me back and again extra 10% off. Awesome. Done. Click and purchase. Then the final piece is on the experiencing phase. And this is where a lot of brands forget about. And especially in the tourism, it's about keeping that conversation going. And sharing the experience is absolutely fundamental to creating your content to drive other people to go through the same experience that you did. So you've now went with the dolphins, you've gone up to Strawberry Hills, you've gone to Blue Hole, etc., etc. Snap, snap, snap. My kids had an amazing time. I went to Sumfest, etc. And now I'm sharing that content. I'm writing, if I have, personally, if you have your own blog or on Facebook, etc., you're creating content that's going to be shared, your reviews, everything else, that helps to drive back to the start for someone else. And so that when someone else is starting to dream, they start to see your posts. Because I know personally, when I go and I start dreaming, I also look at the reviews. I start going in and looking through all the reviews and going, oh, you know what, it's 5-star, or, you know, you start saying, oh no, the service wasn't great there. It wasn't great family focused. Well, I want family, so I'm going to go with something else. And that full cycle, that understanding, creating the conversation, but also making sure that it's a two-way conversation. And that's the other piece that you need to understand is when you have a bad experience and you post, that you reply and you engage with the customers and appropriate to make sure you fix it. Because when I go and I look at reviews, okay, there might have been, because not everybody has a good time, we know that, you know, things happen, but how the hotel or the brand deals with it is what gets me. If they grab it and say, you know what, I'm sorry, we'll fix it next time, we'll do this for you, etc., and they were on the ball, I will then be more interested in going back to that brand because I know that they took it and acknowledged it and then solved it rather than radio silence, but then they responded to every single positive post. I don't want that brand. You know, you can see it, right? When you're going through the reviews, you know the ones that they ignored. And so it's making sure, because all that content is, again, building up those profiles so that every single click, you're creating that oil for you to understand of how you can get to those people in those micro moments. This is about, as I said, putting about the right information and sharing and making sure you target at the right time. That's me in a nutshell. But before I finish, I just want to recap that, remember, big data, absolutely. A lot of people get scared because big data, it sounds really, really complicated. But as a small business, you don't need to be scared. Big data is anything. Start with what you know. So if you have your own database on your clients, that is data. You have it. You have a Facebook page, and you've got clients on your Facebook page. Again, that's data. Use your analytics in your Facebook. Use the analytics on your Google. Don't be afraid of big data. You have it. It's about how do you use it as effectively as you can so that you can make sure that every dollar that you have, you're getting to the right person at the right time so that you can convert your brand into dollars, because the ROI is ultimately where you're going to see the biggest conversion. And as marketeers, we're moving less and less away from just pushing a campaign out there, but really evaluating. When you put out a campaign, evaluate it. Make sure you're getting your KPIs. Making sure that you really sit down with your agency and go back. Make sure they give to you all the KPIs for every campaign that you do and learn from it. And that's the piece that we get really excited at Trend about, is understanding and learning, because every campaign we do, we learn a bit more. And then we can tweak it. And it means that every campaign, it's a continuous process. And that's why we always advise not just to do a one-off blast. It's really important to have an always-on campaign. Why? Because Even if you're only spending a few $100s, just keep it going. Why? Because you're understanding the patterns, the habits. You're starting to learn from always on. So you tweak and tweak and tweak so that your funnel, you're not wasting money along the way. You're really understanding who you're targeting, because we'd love to target everybody, right? We'd love everybody to buy your brand, but reality is that's not going to happen. You're going to be, even when you dig down, you're going to start realizing who your real clients are. And actually, just to give you an example, we had a client who came to us, and they thought their demographic and their customers were one particular profile. And we said, okay, fine, we'll work with you. And they had a few challenges on sales. And we started using their data as well as programmatic data. And we were able to start understanding habits. And we did a sales campaign. We were able to track who was purchasing their products, where. We started doing heat maps, so we knew exactly where, if it was Trelawney or Kingston or where, Portland or Portmore, wherever they were, what they were buying, and also what other products they were buying. So we started profiling, understanding, okay, well, that particular type of person was buying that brand from you, but then they were also buying that brand from you. And then we started seeing habits. We started seeing, well, that particular person doesn't actually buy from you between Thursday and a Monday because, you know, they're traveling or etc. Perfect time to offer them a discount. And we started putting loyalty and bonus days and etc. Targeting those specific times when they saw the downtimes to bring those sales back. And they were able to see 120% increase in their sales in the first month that we ran it. Why? Because it was just using the data they already had in a really effective way. They just weren't able to see it because they were just so much into the day-to-day sales and operations, they weren't able to actually step back and see the analytics, the information that they had at their hands. So my advice to everybody in the room is see what information you have, make sure you engage with your customers, create those micro moments with them, and make sure that you're continuously learning. And then from programmatic point of view, you're able to then purchase that right inventory in front of the right person at the right time. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Aileen Corrigan, CEO of Trend Media, personal favorite of mine. I love the platform. Shanique can tell you, Julian can tell you, I'm always with Trend all the time. And I'm sure that from this presentation, our attendees will have some questions for you. So at this time, we're opening the floor to our Jamaica auditorium before we head on over to our India partners. Do we have any questions? Yes, we do.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Yes, very informative presentation. I learned a lot. I would like to know, from a reporting standpoint, are there any tools that you recommend for reporting for social media management?
Yeah. We use a multitude. We actually use a company called Bionic, who is an international company ourselves for our social media. From a Google Analytics, to be honest, from just an information point of view, it's free. That is absolutely fundamental. Using your analytics in Facebook, Instagram, free ones will provide you a huge amount of information. There's also will give you right across all social media, so it pulls in, and that one's very handy. That's the particular one we use.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Yes, we have one there in the middle.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
My question for you is advertising the only way to build your brand awareness to reach the right audience? I want to know if there are any other ways that you can reach the right audience organically.
Yeah.
Because for us, we normally advertise online on Instagram and Facebook, and that's when we realize it gets the most boost. Or if a celebrity visits the lounge, we get a lot of boost. But are there any other ways that we can boost it naturally?
So, I mean, as you just said there, content is absolutely key. No matter what platform you use, unless you have engaging content to start with, that in itself will help to drive. So you'll see, with, let's say, a celebrity comes into VIP in the lounge, they sit there and you see them, you know, having a coffee. People are excited about it, they'll want to engage with that. How can you use it organically? Well, it's about using search, making sure you tag, make sure that you're getting in the rankings, making sure that, you know, wherever you're putting it, that you are, you know, tagging that celebrity, making sure you're tagging VIP, making sure you're tagging, using the right search in the content as you're writing the headlines, making sure you use it up in there, because if you don't use the right keywords from a search point of view, you're not going to get, and that is absolutely fundamental, is the search point of view. That's where you're going to get your organic. So make sure you get onto all your platforms, but then make sure you tag it correctly. That's how you're going to get the organic.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions from our auditorium? Anybody else? All right. If we don't have any further questions at this time, I'm going to
Yes, Debbie.
turning over to Raj.
That was very informative, and we have a lot of appreciations from online participants, and a few questions as well. So the first question is from Lee. Where can I do data analysis, or which data should I check for starting business in any niche?
The data using Google Analytics, using the platform is probably one of the most accessible, easiest ways. Making sure that you get into all the analytics of all your platforms, so make sure you can get into your website, seeing where your traffic is coming from, making sure you understand, are you getting your traffic from referrals? Is it coming direct? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from search? Understanding those behaviors is really is kind of the building blocks of understanding, you know, what you can build on. Also from your social media, understanding then your profiles, as in, you know, who's your audience, who's engaging with you most, who are your influencers. So on Facebook and Instagram and on Snapchat, who is actually engaging with you, and who is also your promoters, because you can also leverage them to help drive your brand further, and that will also help with the organic, is leveraging the people that you already have engaging with you, because, you know, promoters who are passionate about you will actually do a lot of your work organically for you, because they're pushing your brand. And so it's getting into those analytics that you have to
yes.
understand the profiles. Does that answer the question?
And the next question is from Roger. Is there a way to overcome data governance and security issues in achieving the good analytics to receive?
Good question. I think, especially with the Cambridge Analytics, drama over the last few months, I think especially with the new European law, they brought about, people's privacy, GDPRs. Make sure the security and fraud is absolutely fundamental. How do we as brands make sure that we are compliant? Because the one piece that is really important is that people are providing you a lot of information, and you as a brand have the responsibility to make sure you protect that information. If you don't have people opting in, and if you're not getting people to opt in into your receiving information, if you've got, let's say, email blasts that are going out, website information, etc., start doing that now, because we're seeing a massive change across the world of data privacy, making sure people are opting in, they are consenting for you to use the data. And as a brand, it's a good policy to start implementing governance now, because although it's not coming immediately, it will be. We are seeing Cayman, French West Indies have already implemented governance acts, making sure people are opting in. In French West Indies, people have to opt in, double opt in, and that's making sure that your privacy is safeguarded. So absolutely, governance and fraud, and making sure that as a brand you're being responsible is really critical to protecting your own brand reputation, your online reputation is
Thank you, Eileen.
fundamental.
So we have a last question here. How do big data analytics transform the future digital marketing?
I think it just sums it up as it's the absolute core, the heartbeat of digital marketing. It's giving you every single insight, every single touch. One thing that I sat down with one of my colleagues who's an analyst, and they were saying that even your phone in the room we're in now, there's air conditioning. And so your phone can pick up, okay, you're obviously in air conditioning. And then when you go outside, you're 10 degrees hotter. Every single piece of that information is providing big data. So what does that mean? Well, it means that if you're in a place selling air conditioners, and in a particular area it's particularly hot, well, perfect people to go after. So big data is really understanding, giving everyone the insights that you need to predict and know who you need to be going after, because just throwing money out at a wide audience and to everybody is not good enough. Also on top of that, it's understanding that you're having the right conversation. How I want to be communicated to is vastly different to someone else. And before, as marketeers, we used to do one campaign and that was it. It was the same language for everybody. We can't do that. It's just not good enough anymore. People want to be able to engage with each person in their own way. They want to know that you're talking to me. You're not talking to the whole world and you really don't care about me. And so that big data is going to be the tool to enable you to do that.
Thank you again, Eileen. This has been a question with everyone here, how to reach the right audience at the right time. And thank you so much for enlightening us there. And I request you to share your contacts, through your voice. So we have a lot of online participants requesting for your contact.
Thank you, Raj. It's been a pleasure. You can reach me at aileen.corrigan@digicelgroup.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at ailes_01, AILES_01. And you can also follow Trend Media. We're on Instagram, Facebook. We're on all the media platforms. You can also find us at trend.media for a website. We're located here in downtown Kingston, so we're local, we're here. We work through 24 countries throughout the Caribbean, so even though we're in Jamaica, we actually have the reach right across the region as well. So for brands that work across multiple Caribbean islands, we're able to support brands right across the region. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Aileen.